My beloved students, I am Professor Dipak Kumar Karmaker, Department of English, Rajbari Government College. Hope you are all fine by the grace of the Almighty. Today, I like to resume the reading that I started the other day. Hope you remember. We were reading Unit 15, Lesson 3, Imaginary Travel. That day, we read the introduction. Today, we will read the text proper. Before I read, let me point out one thing. As you can see, Jonathan Swift belonged to the 18th century. This is why it's very natural that the English of that time will be different from English of our time. And during that time, we saw the rise of prose, but still, prose was not really in its full-fledged form, fully developed form. This is why you may see these structures, very long construction, long sentences, and a little bit what is called rhetorical, and also very complex, and there are all uses, and a kind of poetic, also poetic, a little bit of poetic. Let's read. One morning, about fortnight means 2 weeks, fortnight after I had obtained my liberty, 2 weeks after I had my liberty, freedom, Rail Dressel, a name, principal secretary, is the chief official, as they style him, as they call him, name him. This was the name given to him of private affairs. Private affairs means something confidential, something not public. This is private affairs. Came to my house, attended only by one servant. He had only one servant. He ordered his coach. Coach is the carriage of 4 wheels drawn by horses. He ordered his coach to wait at a distance and desired I would give him an hour's audience. And what did he desire? He wished that Gulliver said, Gulliver gave him some hearing, 1 hour's hearing. It's 1 year. An hour's audience, which I readily consented. So I at once agreed on account of his quality. Why? Because of his quality. That man has quality and personal merits. And his personal merits, his skills, talents, as well as the many good offices he had done me, and also for the fact that he did many good things for me. Great, he helped me in many ways. He had done me during my solicitations at court, during my appeal. Well, as you can guess, Gulliver was accused of certain offense, and he was See, he was tried in a court, and naturally he made appeals for his innocence. So that during that court proceedings, so he helped me in many ways. Helped him. I offered to lie down. I said that I will just lie down, that he might be the more convenient to reach my ear, so that that man, his real drizzle, can come to my ear and talk to me. But he chose rather to let me hold him in my hand. But he wanted that Gulliver held him on his hand. During our conversation, he began with compliments on my liberty. He started by appreciating or praising my liberty. Said he might pretend to some merit in it. Said pretend to means to claim something, although which is not true. This is claiming something. He might pretend to some merit in it. He could claim some merit, some credit, but however added that if it had not been for the present situation of things at court, perhaps I might not have obtained it so soon. So Gulliver would not get the liberty so soon if there was not certain situations. You will understand later as we go on. Gulliver was needed at the time. For, said he, as flourishing a condition as we appear to be in to foreigners, we may appear to be very much flourishing, bright, happy, developing in a flourishing condition, developing conditions, improving states to the foreigners. But actually what happens? We labor, we struggle under two mighty evils. We have to reach two powerful evils. One, a violent faction at home. One is violent, great faction, conflict, clash, hostility, and the danger of an invasion, sudden attack, invasion, danger by a most potent enemy from abroad, potent, very powerful enemy from abroad, from other countries. As to the first, you are to understand that for above 70 moons past, 70 moons, this is where we say days, but during that time they called moons. Still some people, count the days according to the rotation of the moon on its axis around the earth, like this. Past 70 moons, 70 days ago, there have been two struggling parties in this empire. Two parties, they were fighting with each other under the names of Tramexan and Slemexan. What are they? From the high and low heels on their shoes. So, a group of people used shoes with high heels, the other ones shoes with small heels, low heels, by which they distinguish themselves. It is alleged, indeed, it's really said, that the high heels are most agreeable to our ancient constitution, our ancient old constitution, the constitution book of the laws, rules by which a country is ruled, led, constitution. So they were agreeable. I mean, these high heels, agreeable, suitable. But however this be, whatever it is, His Majesty, the King, has determined to make use of only low heels in the administration of the government. But the king decided to use the low heels, people with low heels only, in the administration of the government. Administration. Those who are have the responsibility to rule the country. And particularly that His Majesty's imperial heels are lower. And His Majesty's, the kings or emperors, imperial heels, royal heels are lower at least by a drur than any of his court. Now, drur is a measure about the 14th part of an inch. So 14th part, you can understand. The animosities between these two parties, animosities means hostility, enmity, between these two parties run so high, they are so strong, that they will neither eat nor drink nor talk with each other. In other words, they will not mix with each other. There will be no contact. They must not be in contact with anyone. We compute, we guess, we reckon that Tramaxan or high heels to exceed us in number. They are bigger in number. But the power is wholly on our side. We are the Slamaxan, we have the power. We apprehend His Imperial Highness. We apprehend. We fear His Imperial Highness, the heir to the crown, someone who will be the next king, to have some tendency towards the high heels. He has tendency towards high heels. At least we can plainly discover one of his heels higher than the other. And one has by this time secretly probably noticed that one of his heels is a little bit bigger than the other, which gives him a hobble in his gait. Gait is the style of walking, the way you walk, and hobble when there is some difficulty in walking. Hobble in his gait. Now, in the midst of these intestine disquiets, intestine means internal, disquiets, disturbance. We are threatened with an invasion. Now, we are threatened with an invasion from the island of Blefuscu. When there is some internal disorder in a country, the strength of the country is very much reduced. Lack of unity means lack of strength. What happens when a country has internal, say, clash, conflicts, civil war, etc., and then they become weak and they become vulnerable? See some foreign enemy lands, the people of that lands may try to invade, attack. So Blefuscu was like this. Invasion, sudden attack from the island of Blefuscu, which is the other great empire of the universe. These people of Lilliputians believed there are two empire. This is the land of Lilliput and land of Blefuscu, universe, almost as large and powerful as this of His Majesty. For as to what we have heard you affirm, now as for the thing you said, Gulliver said, that there are other kingdoms and states in the world inhabited by human creatures as large as yourself. As you said, there are countries, other countries in this universe, and which are inhabited by people like you, like Gulliver. As for these, our philosophers just means scientists and astronauts, are in much doubt. We cannot believe, and would rather conjecture, would rather think, guess that you dropped from the moon. Actually, you are not creatures of this universe. This planet, you came from the moon, or one of the stars, Because it is certain that 100 mortals of your bulk, just 100 mortals, people of your size, would in a short time destroy all the fruits and cattle of His Majesty's dominions. If there were 100 people like you, you would say, in a very, very short time, you would destroy, eat up all fruits and cattle of our country. Besides, our histories of 6,000 moons, make no mention of any other regions. There is no mention of any other region. Then the two great empires of Lilliput and Blefuscu, which two mighty powers have, as I was going to tell you, been engaged in a most obstinate war for 36 moons past. 36 moons past. It began upon the following occasion. How it began? It is allowed on all hands. It is admitted by all that the primitive way of breaking eggs before we eat them was upon the larger end. The first one of the rule of breaking eggs was at the larger end. But His present Majesty's grandfather, while he was a boy, going to eat an egg and breaking it, according to ancient practice, happened to cut one of his fingers. He cut his fingers, whereupon the emperor, his father, published an edict. Edict is a kind of rule, directive, commanding all his subjects upon great penalties to break the smaller end of the eggs. The people so highly resented this law. People very much, resented, felt great. They were angry, grievance. They opposed it violently. That our histories tell us there have been 6 rebellions. 6 rebellions, revolution, movements, upsurge, raised on that account, for that, wherein one emperor lost his life, in which one emperor lost his life and another his crown. These civil commotions were constantly fomented by the monarchs of Blefuscu. Now, these civil commotions, internal commotions, disturbance, were constantly fomented. They were somehow instigated more, given encouragement, encouraged more and more by the monarchs of Blefuscu, the kings of Blefuscu. And when they were quelled, when they were stopped, the exiles always fled to refuge to that empire. This happens when someone is committing some crime and they are going to be punished. They flee, run away, and the enemy countries usually give shelters to them because these people are enemy to this particular land. It is computed that 11,000 persons have at several times suffered death rather than submit to break their eggs at the smaller end. So 11,000 persons, they suffered death. They accepted death instead of agreeing to break their eggs at the smaller end. Many hundred large volumes have been published, very large volume, big books published upon this controversy, about this debatable question. But the books of the big Indians have been long forbidden. The books of the big forbidden, prohibited, and the whole party rendered incapable by law of holding employments. And this party, these people were just forbidden, incapable. They were rendered incapable, means they could not have any employments. So that is the story. Now let me tell you a few things that let me summarize. This is a story, as I said in the beginning, is a kind of satire. What things we find? One thing is when people become egoistic, what is called egoistic, too much pride. We human beings claim that we are rational beings, rational creatures, but very often we behave very, very irrationally. For example, in this story, it is shown how people started fighting with each other. They engaged in a kind of civil war. But what is the reason? What is the cause? It's a very, very funny thing, very insignificant, something such a trifling thing. Cutting eggs, breaking eggs. How you will break the eggs? Does it matter at all? We also sometimes do this. Just because in order to keep our pride, because to keep our ego unhurt, maintain our egoistic position, our pride, we start quarrel, fight. You may see this in our society, in our time also. This Jonathan Swift wrote this book in 726. What you see? The same thing happens in our time also. So this is why one of the attributes or qualities for which you can say the story has a universal appeal. Why universal? Because it's true not only for any particular time and place, but beyond that particular time and place. It's true for all time, for all places. As you can see here, I said this matter of ego or pride, meaningless pride, and not to yield or obstinacy In the introduction, you may remember, see, like these. It's called extremism, racism, prejudice, and also we have let us try to see some grammar points. Wiki. One morning, about a fortnight after I had obtained my liberty, this is a complex sentence. After I had obtained my liberty, this is the past perfect tense, as you can see. So, my dear students, today I like to end this session. Hope you will be benefited by this lecture of mine. I will see you again soon. Okay? I like to end my lecture today.